Hi, my name's Troy, and I thought I would make a little video for you all regarding oil changes. When we bought our machine, it was kind of something that made me really nervous about changing the oil, and I heard this and that and whatever, and I just wasn't sure how it was going to work, and I thought it might impede our use of the machine. So we've worked kind of a nice little method that I thought I'd share with you. But first I'll say this one, before I bought the machine, because I'm kind of a gadget guy, I saw people making these pumps and all these other things to help them deal with the oil. And I thought initially I'll just start with the simple case. I even spoke with an aunt of mine, and she said that she just uses the two-stage filter like we have right here that came with the Harvest Right machine. And so I just started with that, and frankly I've been very pleased with it. It's not high tech, but it really does the job. So I'd like to share with you the process that we use. Now, this is how we have things set up right now. It'll probably change a little bit in the future, but bear with me, okay? So we've just finished a cycle, and my aunt shared with me that doing it right at the end of the cycle is easiest because the oil is still hot or warm and will flow out of the pump easier. So we have our pump down low here. Eventually I'll change it where I don't have to sit on the floor. But what I do is I just come down here and I have a small wood block that I place the wood block behind the machine. My aunt has a little contraption that'll help to tilt it. And then what I use is, instead of pouring oil directly into the filter here, I use another device with a lid to collect the oil. So I'm just going to start that. And I'm going to release this so the oil will flow out a little bit better. I'm just going to pull the fill cap off, and then I'm going to start. The first little bit is usually more liquid because that's a little bit of water content. Then I'm just going to let it drain. Now while it drains, what I'm going to share is this. We used initially the quart of oil that came with the machine, as well as the two small bottles. So maybe we were working with a little over a quart and a half or so. And that's what we've been using. We've just been cycling that same amount. We bought some other oil, but we haven't used that yet. So after the machine is filled, you're going to want to have, well, maybe about this much or so in this particular device already. Now that may be because you've already cycled the last bit through. If you're just starting using your machine, I would just start by filling it and then cycling it through. But eventually, when you get to this particular point where you have oil in the machine and some that you've already filtered, somewhere in this range is good, because this is more than enough to fill the machine the next time, and it's less than what would be the capacity of this particular filter. Okay, now an important thing is not to screw this lid on tight after you put oil in it, because then oil will have a hard time getting through into the second stage. So I generally will just keep these where I just set them on top of each other, just for ease of use. Now over here, I've almost gotten all the oil out of it. And what we're going to find is that the water that has been introduced into the pump through the process will come out with the oil. And so after this drains, I'm going to let this sit for a little bit, and I'm going to put the lid on it so I don't have any flies or anything get attracted to the oil. I haven't seen any yet, but just in case. So I'm going to let it all drain, and I'm going to set it aside and give it a little bit of an opportunity for the oil to and the water to separate. Now I always have some paper towels handy, and each time I can use one paper towel, even smaller than that is fine, to kind of finish this process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close the valve. Then I usually will just dab a little bit here to make sure that's clean and tidy. I'll put this lid, I don't want to shake that, I'll just put that lid there. And then I'll remove my little block, which may or may not be required or needed. And then I have a spigot or a funnel here that I can, small enough to fit inside the hole, which makes it a little bit convenient. But I'm going to use this oil here. Now, as you put oil through this, you are going to get some water in here. And so I want to make sure that when I pour any oil from here, that it is, I'm not going to introduce water back in. So let's see if we can see much water in there. And I really can't. I cleaned it out a few runs ago. But just so you know, this particular oil is a mixture of two different types, and you can see how clear it is. And usually when the oil comes out, it is a little bit foggy like this. Okay, so I'm going to just fill it up. And in my experience with this particular pump, I can fill and fill and fill, and it's not going to show on the display. But then when it does show, it fills up to the line really quick. So you'll just learn that from experience. So I'm going to keep filling. There it goes. And a little bit more. Puts me about where I need to be. So you see I still have some oil here, which is just fine. Okay. Now I'm going to use my paper towel to tidy this a little bit. And now that this is empty, or close to, I'm going to now pour this in through the top. We've used this, the coffee filter and the other materials in this pump, or in this filter, excuse me, probably 15 to 20 times. And so we haven't felt the need to replace it yet. Now I'm just going to pour the rest of this in. Now I'm going to be careful because down on the bottom, it may be hard to tell, but there are some bubbles of water in there. So when I pour this into here, at the very end I'm going to be very cautious to not pour the water back into this, because if I can separate some of it out, all the better. And I'm not going to pour it directly into the hole going into the second stage, just to give it a chance to collect some water in this particular stage of the filter. So I'm just going to pour it in like this, and I'm going to keep an eye on the water in this container. And I'm almost out of oil. Okay. And I just caught it a little bit before, some water. So you can see in there, some of the bubbles in there, that's just water. So what I have done is I have kind of this excess container here that when I am done pouring this into here, probably half of this is water and then some oil. So I'm just going to pour the rest of this all into here. Okay. And what's going to happen to this, and I'll put a lid on it, what's going to happen to this is over time I'm going to collect more water and then some oil. And after I get a decent amount of oil like this, I'll just pour off the oil into this top one here. Now because I just poured some in, I'm going to let it sit for a little while. But this is a way to continually collect the water out of it and just keep the oil and keep recycling the oil. I've heard that you can use the oil over and over and over again for a long time. So far, our experience is such that as long as it keeps coming clear through here, then I'll keep using it. And so we're pretty happy with it. Now, again, when I put this lid on here, I'm just going to set it on, because if I tighten it up, it'll create a, no airflow will be able to go through here to allow this oil to drain down into here. So I just want to put that on there. Now another trick that we've done is we use this tray here because as I set this down I'm going to get oil somewhere, and so this jelly roll pan will at least contain some of the oil here. So then I will put my lid on that, set that there, do any final tidying that I need, put my cap on here, and we are ready for the next go through.